I mean, Bibi would call me so many times, can you get me this weapon, that weapon, that weapon? Some of them I never heard of, Bibi, and I made them. But we'd get them here, wouldn't we? Huh? And they are the best. They are the best. But you used them well. It also takes people that know how to use them. And you obviously used them very well. But so many that Israel became strong and powerful, which ultimately led to peace. That's what led to peace. I mean, Bibi would call me so many times, can you get me this weapon, that weapon, that weapon? Some of them I never heard of, Bibi, and I made them. But we'd get them here, wouldn't we? Huh? And they are the best. They are the best. But you used them well. It also takes people that know how to use them. And you obviously used them very well. But so many that Israel became strong and powerful, which ultimately led to peace. That's what led to peace.
We make some of the best weapons the world has ever seen. BB would call me, he would call me 2, 3, 4 in the morning to say, Don, I need this weapon. Some of the weapons I ain't even heard of before. I say, God damn, what you trying to do? He say, Don, I need them. I say, don't worry about it. So we send them. We send a whole bunch of weapons to Israel, right? And he used them well. y'all been seeing the photo? I'm talking about that was the best use of our weapons I ever seen. Oh, you trying to bring food to them? Bang! Women? Bang! Children? Oh, look at the little trash. Bang! That is insane how great he is at committing a genocide. Astonishing. Boy, the way he conducted his strikes, it was like he targeted everybody.
You've been saying that you hope you get into heaven. Do you still think you're going?
Oh, well, I don't really think I'm getting into heaven. I think that ship is sailed. I just said I gave him all them weapons. You see what he did with them? You think God like that? No. No, I'm not getting in. Shit, that's why we ain't releasing them files. I ain't getting in no heaven.
Alright, Shalom. First off, I want to start off by giving all the glory, infinite praise, and honor unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rahakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that do rule and teach well. Peace, love, and salutation to the hopeful elect that is out there pushing this truth in all sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth, giving diligence to make your calling of election sure. Shalom. This is your brother Nassau from the Great Millstone Savannah Camp, coming back in the spirit with another lesson. Lord willing, I pray and hope that it is edifying and exhorting. All right. And I want to do this lesson, going into the video that I just played. All right. Of course, going into Trump and Bibi and Nada who. All right. And Salakia. Basically, Trump, went on record, praising this man, all right, for how he used the weapons that were funded by the USA, by our tax dollars, all right. He also, went to their parliament, I believe, to their parliament and asked, the president of Israel for a pardon for Bibi Netanyahu, all right, because he still has to deal with the international courts, okay, and so this is just yet another example of how Esau Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, is the devil that the Bible speaks of. All right, and they're sitting in their meetings, laughing, all right, clapping, all right, standing ovations, after they just committed a genocide, over I think like 28,000 women and children. Okay, but it's coming out that the real agenda, all right, behind this Gaza thing, it wasn't about hostages. It's about occupying the Gaza Strip. Okay, and they have plans for that land. All right. So I want to start with precepts. Psalm 73 in verse 3. It says, and this is King David speaking, right? It says, "For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked." All right. And when you see these kings and rulers, all right, they're prosperous, man. They're laughing, joking, playing around. All right. And meanwhile, they're playing with people's lives. Okay. It says, "For there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm." All right. And they're boasting in their strength, the sword. Okay. Boasting about how many weapons they have and how well they use them. Verse 5, it says, "They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. Therefore pride compasseth them as a chain, violence covereth them as a garment." Alright, and basically Esau has no choice in these days, in these latter days, but to boast and bolster himself in his sword. Alright, because he's being found out to be the devil. He's being found out to be that guy. Okay, it says their eyes stand out with fatness. They have more than heart could wish. They are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily, right? So when it comes to oppression, when it comes to basically right. Matter of fact, let's look up that word oppression. Okay, see how. Yeah, it says oppression, cruel, unjust, a cruel or unjust use of power or authority. All right. It says pressing down, violence. Okay, to subdue, to put down, to crush, to persecute relentlessly, to rape. Okay, and ultimately Esau doesn't have any compassion. All right, when it comes to the poor, when it comes to the wicked deeds that he has done, is the things that are being called out. There's no remorse. All right, there's no humility in him. Okay, and why? Because he is made to be the devil. He's made to be the protagonist of the scriptures. All right, he's made to be Satan, the opposition to righteousness. Okay, so this is it's nothing new. All right, and people need to know. All right, yeah, we can bring this out too, right? Because Bibi Netanyahu was basically using the scriptures, using the Bible to justify what he did. Calling those Palestinians, he was calling them Amalek, right? Saying that he would have war with Amalek from generation to generation. Okay. Maybe I'll find a clip. But this is Psalms chapter 50 and verse 16. It says, "But unto the wicked Yahweh saith, What hast thou to do to declare my statutes, and that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth?" All right, and these people are supposed to be God's chosen people, the Lord's chosen people, but they're over there committing genocide, bombing women and children. Okay, and the world sees it, and more importantly, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, the God of the heavens and the earth, he sees it. All right, and there's a judgment that comes along with the things that you have done in the earth. and these things are taking up a parable against you. Okay? It says, seeing thou hatest instruction and castest my words behind them, when thou sawest a thief, thou consentest with him and has been partakers with adulterers. You see, um, it says, thou givest thy mouth to evil and thy tongue frameth deceit. You see, and that's what they're doing when they, when they get in these press conferences, they have a script set up to frame deceit. All right, to get the people to believe that they're the victims. Okay, that they're not doing anything wrong, that they're defending themselves. No, when all actuality, they are the hammer of the earth. They're the bullies. All right, but the Lord sees all things. Verse 20, and the scripture says, "Thou didst not lay these things to heart," meaning that they didn't think about the latter end. It says, "Thou sittest and speakest against thy brother; thou slanderest thy own mother's son." All right. I wanted to get war within his heart. Get that. I thought it was Psalms 50. Yeah, 55. All right. Psalms 55 and 20. It says, "He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant." All right, and they just signed a so-called peace deal, a peace treaty with those Palestinians. Right now, we know through background and through history. All right, through his track record, that Esau is a covenant breaker. All right, he does not keep covenants. He does not keep treaties with people. All right, he always backtracks on those covenants. All right, look at the he signed over 400 treaties with Native Americans, and he broke them all. All right, so he's not a covenant man. All right, and he tries to use it in his legal system to sign these different contracts. And the law always works in his favor. Why? Because it's his kingdom. All right, verse 21, it says, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. All right, and they get on these press conferences, and they're convincing the people to go to war. All right, against really some innocent people. Not only that, they're making war against everyone. All right. Look at the food, look at the water, the air, everything. Is basically warring against creation. I wanted to get this last verse on to him that what it say? It said he covered fields by violence. Micah chapter 2 and verse 1, it says, "Woe unto them that advise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand." And you see Trump, it's in the power of his hands to give these people these weapons to drop on innocent people, on hospitals, on schools. Right? They have totally decimated that land. And they're basically trying to say it's because of some hostages and some terrorists, right? But meanwhile, you have a plan to turn that into a real estate market, right? The Gaza Strip. You have a plan to turn it into some beachfront properties. You have plans for the resources, the natural resources that are under the land. You have already planned out the spoils, right? So that was your plan all along, was to This is how it works, man. He does psychological operations to get the people to not go against and to justify his actions, right? And then waging war against the innocent or the poor, and then playing the victim, throwing a rock and hiding his hand. Micah chapter 2 and verse 2, it says, and they covet fields and take them by violence. All right, how did you obtain the land of Israel? You did it by violence. How did you obtain the land of America? You did it by violence. Europe, violence. Everywhere you go, you take violence because that was the promise that was given unto you by our forefather Isaac, right? That by your sword shall you live, right? But eventually, what? The prophecy is going to flip, right? And you're going to have to serve. You're going to have to be that servile person, right? And the Lord is going to do away with all your weapons, all your nuclear power, your rockets, your missiles, your guns. All right, it's all going to come to an end. It says in houses. Matter of fact, starting over, it says, and they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress, right? And we read what oppression is, right? Basically to rape, all right? To press down with violence, all right? To misuse one's authority, right? It says, so they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. Not only do Esau has, basically psychologically tore down the so-called Negroes here in America. And not only do you do it to one generation, you'll do it to four. All right, you made this study, right? And even when you go into the what is that? The Willie Lynch letters, right? You went into how these different forms of punishment. All right, these different examples you would set would affect generations. So you oppress a man in his heritage. You did it by violence. You would, take the slave and beat him. All right, in front of his children and wife. Take the biggest slave and do that and make an example out of him, right? By violence, man. All right, take a man and tie him to two separate horses and have them run in two separate directions and rip him apart. These are different ways that you enacted violence to basically, to oppress a man's heritage. So that the trauma and the effects of these different brutalities are long lasting. That last generations. Right, so much so that we have, a lot of the majority of our people have forgotten their heritage. They have forgotten who you are. All right, but the Lord left a remnant, right, to wake up and to remember, and to call you out, man, so that you won't feel quietness in your belly. All right, the scripture says what, that shame is on your glory, right? I believe that's Isaiah 47, right? Nope, Habakkuk chapter 2. It says, woe unto them that giveth his neighbor drink, and that puttest thy bottle to him, and makest him drunken also, that thou mayest look upon their nakedness. And you do this all over the earth. All right, but you specifically done it a lot. All right, here in America. Okay, verse 16, it says, thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto you, unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. All right, it says, for the violence of Lebanon shall cover thee, and the spoil of the beast which made them afraid because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land of the city and all that dwell therein. So, for because of your violence, shame is covering you, man. Now people are starting to wake up. The human condition is getting so bad that people are starting to wake up and get hip to who you are and what you do and your tactics, man. The mirth is wearing off. All right. So people are starting to see the veil. All right, see behind the veil. Okay, and it's only a matter of time before, um, like we say, Revelation the 12th chapter. We bring it all the time that you're gonna come down with brute force and wrath because you can no longer hide your wickedness. You can no longer bewitch the people. Okay, and we're coming into those times, and it's beautiful to watch, man. All right, so you're not gonna get away. Um, Job says it, man. It says that the prosperity of the wicked is but for a moment. All right, and you're gonna pass away like a dream. All right, so I just want to do this quick lesson, Lord willing. It was edifying, exhorting us to give out by giving out the glory, infinite praise and honor unto Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai Bahashim, Rahakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace, love, and salutation to the hopeful elect. Shalom and a Bible.